Welcome to this video where I'm going to bring you into my primary space. This is a little bit different to what I've done previously on the channel, but a little while ago I was meeting with some um, members out in Paarl and Wellington, which is a little bit further away from Cape Town, and there's a senior missionary couple there, the Petersons, and they're serving, and Sister Peterson, she was asking me about what I do in primary because I'm the primary music leader, and I showed her my file where I keep all the different things that I have collected over the years for primary, and she was like, "Oh, this is so amazing, you're going to put it on YouTube as well." She knew about the channel and the conducting videos I was doing, and I was like, "No, I haven't got to that." But anyway, I thought, well, let me see how this goes. So I thought as an introduction, I would just show you kind of the basics of how I do primary music. And then I will try and do different videos for different songs that I've led. There are so many resources available online, and so this is just another one to add to the pool of resources that are out there. So I thought, firstly, let me just show you the primary room where I'm able to do singing time. Um, we are very blessed in the meeting house that we have, that I have a beautiful big room where I'm able to do singing time, and we've got lovely natural light that comes in. So it really is a fantastic space to be in. There are other rooms that we have in this passage, this wing of our meeting house. So there's a separate room where the children go for opening exercises, brief little talk, etc., an opening prayer, and then there are separate classrooms as well. And our primary is big enough that we split the juniors and the seniors. So after they have opening exercises, they then come into the juniors, come and they join me. And I have my 20 minutes with them, and then they go to class, and then the seniors come, and I do singing time with them. And typically what I do when we start singing time is I get everybody to get in a nice big circle. You'll notice as you look at the room, this is actually generally how I have the room set up on a Sunday. The chairs, we have chairs in the room, but I have them all stacked along the side of the room and out of the way, and I would just have the open space. So I like to move around the room as we're going. So I'll get everybody into a nice big circle initially, and we just like to stretch and get them to shake out and get ready to sing. And that works quite nicely just to kind of get them into the mood for singing, and then they kind of know this is it. And then we always do a fun song first, and I have an app on my phone where you just have a spinning wheel, and I have different songs, the names of different songs programmed into it, and I have a list of all of the children, just a laminated page. I just have written their names on, and I mark off who's had a turn to spin the wheel, and then I can just see of who needs to have a turn, who's here today, and then make sure that everybody kind of has a fair turn for doing it. So somebody will spin the wheel, and then we'll do a fun song, and there are all sorts of different fun songs that we do. And then what I always do is I do an article of faith song. So every month we do one of the articles of faith. So we started last year January, and we went through the 12 months, and then this year January we did number 13, and then we started again at number 1 in February, and we carried on because there were so many Sundays we missed. In March and April we had our state conference, and then there was general conference, and then there was Easter, so we ended up actually just doing one for between March and April. So we've just been doing the fourth article of faith again this month, and then we'll go to starting the next one. So I have little pictures with numbers that kind of help to associate each of the articles of faith, and I can do a separate video on just kind of explaining my logic of how I help them to remember. So it's just to try and help them remember the number with what the content is of that article of faith. And so when I'm first teaching it, what I'll do, I really only do this with articles of faith, but it seems to work for that. I write it out on the whiteboard, and then we just sing it through, and I normally will just use my hand to indicate the different pitch as we're going through it, so higher notes and lower notes. And then once we've sung it once, then I'll get them to, whoever sung nicely, to suggest which words we rub off, and we rub off a few words until we've got them pretty much off. Sometimes with the juniors, because they can't read as well, we just sing it through a few times, but then because I have the seniors second, then it's already written there, and I can just start rubbing off the words. And so I'll do that maybe for the first 2 weeks of the month. I'll have it written up, and then the third and fourth week, it's just quickly singing it through. So it takes a bit more time on the first week of the month, but then the later weeks, it's just really a quick little recap. And then what I normally do as well is I spend a few minutes just revising a song that we've done previously. I try at the beginning of the year to get the primary president to tell me which songs she's thinking about using for the primary presentation. And so then I try and include those as soon as if it's one we've learned previously, or if it's as soon as we've learned it for the year, I start then incorporating just revision of one song. And then we get to the song that we're actually doing for the week. And I, there are different approaches to how we can do primary music. I feel like it's more important to be helping the children become familiar with the music and not necessarily memorizing all of the songs. I think we live in a world where familiarity is very important, and then we're able to go and find the resources to if we want the exact wording. So I feel like if they get pretty much memorize the chorus of the song, but the verses, I'm not too phased if we actually get it memorized or not. So that's just kind of my philosophy. So what we then do is I try to get them to be exposed to as many different songs as possible. And I feel like that's kind of a similar approach to what happens in sacrament meeting, where we sing different hymns every week, but over time you actually become familiar with the words, and you kind of learn the words and you know them. So what I rather do is at the beginning of the year, I go through all of the lessons in Come Follow Me, and I look at the songs that are suggested, and there are normally 2 songs per month. And then I choose a song for each week based on what the topic is for the Come Follow Me. And so as you just glance down the Come Follow Me, it's quite quick because there are the hyperlinks. You can pick out what are the songs that are suggested for one of the topics for that week. And I have a spreadsheet where I have noted all of those, and then I also note, is this a new song or is it one we've done previously? I have a whole spread. I am actually an accountant by profession, so spreadsheets are my thing. And so I have a spreadsheet where I've listed all the different songs I've taught them, and it's quite an extensive list. I've been serving now for about 2.5 years this time in primary. And so I know all the songs that I've taught them in this 2.5 years, and I also keep track of when we sing different songs so that I can see how familiar they're likely to be with it. Anyway, so I list all of those different songs, and then I choose. Sometimes there's more than one. Sometimes, if for that topic I know we've done another song that they know already, then I'll rather choose that one. And so I have my plan for the year. And so each week we pretty much are singing a different song, but I try to have this core number of songs, particularly those that I know we're singing for the presentation, that I revise every time. And if there's an option, I'll go for one that they know already. What I've also done is looking at the list of the new songs from the Hymns for Home and Church collection, and where there's a song that was suggested, but there's a new song that covers a similar topic. So, for example, one about the second coming, I've now substituted When the Savior Comes Again, hymn, I think it's 1002. Every time we're singing that one instead of one of the older songs that covers the same topic. So I've tried to incorporate the new music, even though it actually isn't included in the Come Follow Me curriculum yet. Yeah, so that's how I look at also what are the songs I want to be doing for the presentation, for the revision, but we haven't sung it for a while. I try to use the one that we haven't sung for a while. And then it's getting to the main song for the week, and it's a new song pretty much every week, but we often have sung it before. So then it's talking more about, okay, so how does this apply to the lessons for this week, for the topic for this week? And we discuss it a little bit. And I always try as I'm teaching to make sure I'm covering the doctrine and helping them to understand it. But I think it's one of the gifts that I've been given. One of my spiritual gifts is being able to really explain things as basic concepts. I'm able to break it down to just at a child's level. What are the basic concepts? So I feel like that is a gift that Heavenly Father has given me, and I think that's why I love working with children, because I'm able to just get into those basics. I think sometimes when I work with youth, I make it too simple and it doesn't work so well. So I'm better with children than I am with youth. I've recognized that about myself, but I love being with the children and just the love that you get from them. Yeah, so that's pretty much how my primary will kind of work on a Sunday. I'll start with one of the articles of faith, then I'll generally start with a fun song, and then one of the articles of faith, and then a revision song, and then we'll have the song for the week, and we'll go through that. And able to do that in 20 minutes. So it's actually, you can get through quite a bit in 20 minutes. So then I thought I'd show you also what I have in terms of my primary bag and what I have at home. I have a file where I try generally the materials that I have for a song to be able to put it into a plastic sleeve, an A4 plastic sleeve. And so then I'm able to have a file, and I've got just these different separators of the alphabet, so I can put it alphabetically. I put a little sticker at the top of each plastic sleeve so I can see what the name is, and you can just quickly flip through and see where the material is. So I've really got a library that I've developed over the 2.5 years that I've been serving in primary now, of I think it must be probably about 50 songs that I've taught in that time. And so we've got materials that I'm able to use. So because of that, when I'm preparing singing time, maybe once or twice in a month I'll have to prepare something from scratch, but very often it's songs that I have taught before, and so I'm able to pull out my materials and redo it. And sometimes the older children will remember the song, but very often for the juniors it's brand new for them. So it's always something interesting and something fun. So I've got my file and I've got the different materials for each one of those. And then on Sunday, what I do is I have a bag that I take with me. That's my primary bag. And I've got a smaller file where I'll just keep the material that I have for this week, and sometimes for the next couple of weeks, I just keep it in the file. I also, once I know what the songs are we're going to be singing for the presentation, I have and if once I've taught all of them, or all the materials I have up to that point, I keep all of those in the file so that at any point I can just be pulling out. If we finish a couple of minutes early, okay, let's revise this extra song. So we've already started with the revision song, but we can pull out an extra one. And so I just keep those handy. And then I also have just like kind of my basic stationery things. So because I have a whiteboard in the primary room that I'm able to use, I have a pack of whiteboard markers, and I also have a pack of magnets that I use because it's just a lot easier to stick things up with magnets. And then I do also, I mentioned that I keep the room open and I like to move around. So what we'll often do is at the beginning of the room, the primary time will be in this big circle and we'll do our fun song, and then we'll all run off to the whiteboard, and that's where we'll do generally the article of faith, and then I set up one of the revision songs on the other side of the room in one of the other corners. So if it's just an action song, maybe I'll have it in the back corner, or if it's one that I'm going to stick things up, maybe I'll take them to the cupboard and I'll stick it up on the cupboard, and then we'll come back to the whiteboard or whatever. And I like us to just kind of rush around the room in between songs, and it just helps to keep the vibe. So that's just my style. That's not at all you have to do that, but I find that works quite nicely. So I also have some press sticks, some patty, I don't know what in South Africa we call it press stick, that I can just stick up things on the cupboard that I need to, or sometimes around the room. And then also, what else do I have in this little bag? So I've got a picture of everything here. And then also just some little pins to be able to put things onto. We've got a notice board, so sometimes if I want to put things up there, it's just handy to have those. I just keep them in my bag. And a little version of the children's songbook, I've still got that from like 20 years ago. And so although I don't really use that anymore, I generally use it on my phone, sometimes it's handy just to be able to have that and pull it out if I want to check something quickly during sacrament meeting just before we go to primary. I want to just check something and my phone isn't available for some reason. Sometimes my children are using my phone. I also just have a dice because sometimes it's handy. You want to just roll the dice to be able to choose something randomly, if you don't have it in an app on your phone where you can spin a random picker or something. So that's pretty much what I have as my standard things in my primary bag. And so every Sunday, I know I've got my basic stationery, I've got the things that I'm going to need. And if I'm handing over for somebody else to do singing time, it's easy to just give over my bag, and then they're able to just have everything that they need. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the basics of how I do primary on a Sunday. I like to have that open space, and then I get the children to move around. Some people like children to sit on the chairs, and they might find like, well, don't you find they're very disruptive? I have found in the past when I've had children sitting on chairs, they're just as disruptive, if not more disruptive, sitting on chairs than they are sitting on the floor. They tend to be climbing all over the chairs, and the chairs are tipping, and they're doing all sorts of crazy things. So I like the flexibility of just having this open space, and we can move around the room. And then if the group is bigger or smaller, it doesn't matter. We can just adapt and we can be moving. But yeah, I like to keep things moving. I like to keep things as interesting and exciting, try to use as much color as I can in the things that I do. I generally try to have a mix of different songs, of an action song. So some songs I choose to teach it with actions, others I have more pictures. So I try to have a variety of methods that I'm using to help the kids to have just a different experience, and they seem to respond quite well to a variety of different things. We're trying to make it either nice actions, nice bright colors, and ultimately all what we're doing is trying to help the children to come closer to Jesus Christ, to learn about Him, to learn the basic doctrines of the church, and to be developing their faith and their testimonies. So in everything that we're doing, trying to be teaching them the doctrines as we're going. And I always make sure that I end each singing time with my testimony of whatever the principle is that we've been learning about in that song, to try to just bring the spirit by bearing my testimony, testifying of those things to the children. And so that's my singing time in primary. It's one of my favorite callings, I think, of all times, as being the primary music leader. It's one of the most fun callings in the church. You get to be creative, you get to be with children, you get to experience their love, and just really going with the basic doctrines. We don't need to get complicated. We can keep it nice and simple. So it's a really wonderful experience. So I hope that as I try to do this series of videos, that there'll be some value for some people, and maybe you'll like the way I run my singing time. But in the comments, tell me how you do your singing time as well, and how you tend to arrange it. We all have our own different styles, and that's one of the beauties of being in this global church. But we all have different personalities that we bring, and that's why we take turns so that the children and all of us can grow in different ways, and we can be exposed to different things. But I hope that you have a wonderful time serving in primary. As I said, it's one of my favorite places to be.